Hello and welcome back to the 33rd episode of the Critical Fools podcast. This week we will be reviewing the movie "I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore." It's quite a long title, but it was a pretty interesting 2017. I would categorize it as a comedy thriller, somewhere within that genre. And this movie was very unique in terms of the emotions and kind of rides it takes you, because there is a lot of laughter and as well as a lot of like more non-comedy moments as well. But it stars Melanie Linsky, who I previously had seen on as Rose in Two and a Half Men, as well as Elijah Wood, who's been in countless roles as well. So yeah, let's get into it. I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on this movie. It was a pretty unique film compared to what we've previously reviewed.
Yeah, I chalk this up as a black comedy because you can tell that certain lines are there to trigger your sense of humor if you have this kind of sense of humor. But it's like, it reminds me, we did Train Spotting, in the sense like there was jokes that were like, you chuckled, but you knew that like that was messed up. And we'll get to when we talk about certain scenes, but like in the beginning, it's right off the bat, it hits you with that with the hospital scene, which I want to get into in a sec. But my overall thoughts were like, yeah, like at times there was like a thriller, like there was a crime like the story was about like, finding the perpetrator of the who basically stole her stuff, right? And so there was like a thriller aspect, but I felt like it was like a crime black comedy. There was like the crime aspect was how they moved the story, but all these like scenes that I think were the powerful scenes in this film were really like those black comedy scenes of like sometimes just random gore or random like messed up dialogue. And like, I think if you don't have that sense of humor, you're like off put. But honestly, I remember watching some scenes dying going like, why am I laughing at this?
Like some of it was just so bizarre that you just couldn't help but laugh is the way I would like put it.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's get into the opening scene, because to me that was actually one of the best scenes in the movie, because he kind of really set the tone for like what this movie was going to entail in terms of its like really dark kind of humor. So it starts with you're introduced to the main character. Her name's Ruth, and she's a nursing assistant who it starts with sort of her day. She's a really, I would say, not. She's a more passive kind of person. She kind of lets things just happen to her. And so she gets pushed around quite a bit in her life. And you see that in scenes about her like going to the grocery store and people just cutting in line in front of her and she doesn't say anything. A lot of things happen to her, but she's a nursing assistant and has to put up with a lot. And she specifically has one patient that you're introduced to her, who's this old lady who has a very racist outlook. And you just see her like, you see some protests that are going on, and she's saying some pretty racist or like crude remarks. And then in the next scene, you see that she has died because she's in a nursing home. And you're then led to Ruth being introduced to her family. And, their family's devastated that she died. And she's like, oh, you were there when she died? Did she say any last things? And you see Ruth there kind of like pause, because she didn't really want to, she's put in an awkward position, because she didn't want to like tell the family, yeah, she said some racist things, and those were pretty much the last things that she said before she died. And it was a really sort of dark moment, and that's sort of the humor that's laid out throughout the entire movie. I don't know. What did you think about the opening scene?
I love the opening scene. I actually think that if you just watch the clip of that scene, you pretty much have described in many ways what the essence of this film.
Yeah.
It's like, it makes you uncomfortable, because even those lines, especially in our current political climate, those lines would make a lot of, especially what happened this last 2020, would make people uncomfortable. You could argue even trivializing it maybe, but I mean, my sense is that I like this scene a lot, because like it like you said it best. It set not just the tone, but like the whole film, you can say it's encapsulated in that scene where you feel a bit of awkwardness, and also it's funny as hell.
A lot of awkward, a lot of uncomfortable, and yet the humor is still there as well. And that's why I don't know if this is necessarily a film for everybody, much like I would say Train Spotting isn't a film for everybody, unless that is up your sort of humor, up your alley in terms of humor. And so, yeah, I also wanted to get your thought. What did you think about Ruth's character? Did you like her? What were your thoughts on her? because she's very interesting when you're first
Yeah, I mean,
introduced to her versus at the end of the film.
yeah, I think she was obviously the star of this movie, like in the sense that, like, she was the headliner with Elijah Wood. But I will say that any scene with Tony was just gold, dude. Like that was like another level. But her character was interesting. I didn't really like dislike her. I didn't really like her that much. Like I wasn't like super like I like Tony's character a lot more. I thought Elijah Wood's performance was like really not just like he showed his range, but like he had like scenes in the beginning with the nunchucks, and then with also the
Ninja Star,
the ninja stars. Her character, I think, was useful for like what they needed to move the plot, right? They kind of made her kind of like interesting, but still generic enough where you can move like the story a little bit. Versus like I think if Tony was really like the focal point because of his quirks, I don't think it would have been harder to write him like to do things certain ways, because in most of the movie he was kind of following Ruth. So I don't know. I guess, what did you think of her character? Like, I thought she was okay. I didn't say it was like, oh, amazing. I thought her performance was good though. But
she was pretty good. The actress tends to, what I've noticed, because I've seen her notably in, like I said before, in 2.5 Men. And I think she's been in a couple other smaller roles that I've seen her in. But she tends to play this sort of, I would say, more awkward characters. Like, I think that's just sort of the what she's typically casted as. And Ruth is sort of an awkward character as well, right? She lacks, especially at the beginning, she doesn't lack a lot of confidence. She tends to get pushed around, and she's frustrated with like where she's at, I think, in life a bit because she's like lives alone. And you're even introduced to Tony's character because she's mad that someone keeps having their dog poop on her like front yard, right? So she tends to get pushed around, and at a certain point, this happens with some people, she snaps. Right, and she finally confronts him, and that's the first time that you really see her sort of, go against her more passive nature and actually be a little more confrontational. And so she goes. I would say her character goes through the typical arc of at first, being very passive, not really wanting to confront the world, even though she is really frustrated with that. She doesn't really want to do anything to change that. But by the end of the movie, it goes through. It goes through a series of scenes where she's like being taken advantage of. Whereas at the end, you see that typical arc of she's gone through all this and now she's more aggressive, she's more assertive within herself. It's kind of like a typical character arc. There's nothing super special, but you see this in a lot of films.
Yeah, I'm on board with that analysis. Like that's why that was a good question you had, because I was like, I like the character. Like, because the movie was like decent, but like I didn't walk away going, oh, this character's so great, that like I have to, I'm always gonna remember her, like I felt a bit, like solid, like you said, solid, but nothing like nuts.
So what about Tony? What made you like his character so much?
Just because you don't see characters like him on this movie. Let's just be honest. That's the reason I liked. I was just like, this is so unique. I love it.
But what specifically about his character did you think was so unique?
Just so quirky, so like transparent about who he is. Like I just love we're jumping around a little bit, but I love when he throws the
ninja star,
the ninja star against the wall, and then he's like he pulls it out, and it's like it took him a while, and he's like, see, that's how hard I threw it. I was just dying, dude. I was just like, this is so good, dude.
Yeah, he's an incredibly quirky character.
Yeah, and so I thought it really fit. Elijah Wood's performance was so good. Like I thought he to me was the star of the movie. I was just like, I just thought he was just amazing.
No, he is. And what was really impressive about this role, I thought, was it really shows the range, like you were saying earlier, that Elijah Wood was able to play, because I've seen him, in many roles, including like Green Street Hooligans, which I really liked his performance. And really, in many roles, they're just so different in terms of his range. It was really impressive seeing him play the character Tony in this movie, because it was unlike anything he's ever done before.
Yeah, it's just his character. That character. So even though we'll get to ratings at the end, but even though this movie's
the one thing I did like about his character too is he kind of plays that sort of naive, like type of character who's always in the pursuit of justice in a way, and because he's willing to do whatever it is to like make sure justice like comes out, but he does it in such a quirky way, right? So he has sort of that innocent view of justice, or like, no, like things need to be set right kind of deal.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm just what I'll say is that I'm always gonna remember this character because of this. Like, so I'll therefore remember this movie. But it's just like that's how good his character was. Yeah. So rolling back to the beginning, I know like so the backdrop is that her stuff gets stolen, her laptop and medication. What you think of the cop character in the beginning too? And like it was clear that he was kind of blowing off because he's like, I got bigger things to worry about. I thought that whole dynamic was funny because it speaks to how like cops.
I think they're really trying to take shots at how cops don't really prioritize certain cases, really.
Yeah, I think because I've seen it too, and like whenever you see cops have to deal with something more minor, like let's say like a domestic dispute, which you could argue is not minor, but like when they have to go, you can really tell that their tone is like, really, I have to waste my time out here, write a report, like like you could sense in their voice, like, this is not like
I want to spend my day.
Yeah, I don't want to be doing this right now, it's late or like it's just trivial, like whatever. Like he makes the comment like your door is unlocked, it's your fault, basically.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think there was some interesting social commentary about like they do that, but then when they're ready to go, guns blazing, they're ready to go, because it's
no knock raids, baby.
Yeah, it's let it rip, shoot first.
Well, that's when they bring
in later.
SWAT.
Yeah. Still, the best commentary on that was in that episode of BoJack Horseman of like dead or alive, and
you're
then
talking about what was the daughter's the cat.
The cat, he's just like, don't worry, yeah. Well, we always we usually make the right decision.
Or the like, LAPD, they took a lot of shots there.
But in general, like I like that scene because there's some social commentary around like how I think some of like the more mundane jobs with like any job, right? Like well, they view mundane because for her it was serious, right? Her stuff was stolen. Being stolen is traumatic, from what I understand.
Sure, I mean, you lose your sense of security, especially when you have a home invasion.
Exactly. So she was violated in some ways, and the cop couldn't care less. Honestly, it was. Yeah, so I thought that interesting dynamic.
I think she also felt like she didn't have anyone else that. Oh, but I do like that scene when she's like talking. So you see that, and she's clearly frustrated, and she doesn't feel safe at home. And then you see her talking, and you like the screen just cuts to Ruth, and she's talking about how cruel this world is. And how you don't really have anybody. It says like a lot. It's like this monologue, and then you see, and she like it pans to who she's talking to, and it's like, is it either her sister or her friend's like daughter, who's just like a 4-year-old, and she just starts like she's just there in shock. And I was like, oh, that's some of the moments of like the really awkwardness that they really wanted to try to get across in this movie.
Yeah,
because like that's not a conversation you should have with like a 4-year-old.
It's not. Yeah, it's not.
Oh, so that was interesting. What did you think about even though they were minor characters, that friend or sister and then her husband? Because there was some weird tension there.
Yeah, it was interesting how like the friend was like really open, stay here, and the husband was like, you know what it is? I've seen this in like real life where like, and maybe it will happen to us one day, but like how like you don't really like maybe your partner's friends.
Yeah, I think it's probably not the first time she's pulled something like this before.
Yeah, that was like that was the hint, right? But I think that scene, again. And this is why it's like I think I think that's the power of comedies in general, whether they're black or not. There's always the reason they're funny is because there's always a hint of truth. And I've seen it where like sometimes you don't like you obviously love or you like you're married or whatever, you like your partners like as a person, but some of their friends you could like roll your eyes a little bit, and I felt with the husband that was his dynamic of like her again, like you could just sense it. I was just dying. I was like, this is so real life because I could see one day going like, oh, this guy again, like when I have my own friends over, certain friends over. I think we know who, but it's just I like that dynamic too because I was just like, oh, this is such like real life, dude. Like,
I think it was a nice subtle touch within that minor interaction.
Yeah, it's all body language. That's why I liked it. There was no dialogue. He didn't say like, I don't like her.
He's like, oh, yeah. She was like, oh yeah, he'll make up the couch for you. and you just see him like, oh god,
no, I don't want to. Oh, I just love it, dude. That's a good scene, dude. I like that. It's that's what I like about this movie is that like there was a lot of subtleness that I thought was like nice, and different. But yeah, that was interesting. That husband character was funny. Yeah, the friend's husband. I forgot his name, but I know the.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so then we after that, essentially because Ruth feels like she doesn't have anyone that she can count on, runs out of options. Oh, I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, so she goes around the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Right. She goes around the before you get to that, she goes around the neighborhood asking if anyone's seen anything suspicious. And then she finally, I believe at this point, I may be getting my exact, maybe getting the exact events in the film a little bit out of order. But I believe she goes to the backyard and sees that there was a footprint, and so she takes a cast of it and then goes to the police again.
Yeah.
And the cop's like, "What do you expect me to do with this?"
And you know what's funny is that like whoever did the writing definitely did the research, because it's true that like some people are really like, they're, how do I describe it? Like they're really like proactive and quirky too. And it's true, like just off a footprint, like the cop is like this, like what am I gonna do? Like good at every shoe, and like it's not possible. There's too many people, right? That's why like people are always surprised when they see the data of like unsolved like cases, that it's always higher than people think, because
it's very high. Not to mention there was. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, unless there's like a clear, like obviously like in high profile cases they put resources, right? But you can't do that in every case, right? And I think people don't realize that like a lot of cases end up unresolved because there was just no like clear evidence. There was no footage, there was no DNA and stuff like that. Like they give you a sad story is that like near where I live, this is years ago. I just moved to my current apartment, and like that summer, somebody got hit by a car, and the family put like any information, please contact the tip line, because unfortunately that person hit that person, I think at like 2 a.m. There was no other cars. Nobody saw anything. I guess the guy was shamefully lucky, because I think it was in front of a CVS, but their camera didn't catch that entrance. It was just cut off. Because I read the local article on this. You know me, I read local papers. And unfortunately, they did a profile on the guy. He was a father. He had just gone, separated from his wife. It was
some sad story.
Yeah, and he just got hit. And I drive by this because I don't go to that CVS, but I drive like by it to go to like food shopping. And yeah, I could see how it could be dangerous if you're just walking there, because it's like a turn, and the guy could have been drunk or didn't see him, and you just hit him.
Clipped him, right?
And yeah, and it was dark, and if he was wearing black, like just hit him, and yeah, apparently like he hit him, left him there dead, and just left, like bolted. And they couldn't. No, there was like no clear evidence, and I'm using this story to show that like to our audience that like unfortunately a lot of cases end up unsolved because unless there's clear like evidence, like low hanging fruit as they say, they file it. And I don't want to talk about The Wire, but we know how it works. So
just I guess going even a little deeper into that. I know we're kind of getting off tangent, but I know I remember listening to an interview with someone I know you like quite a bit. Author of the book The Rise of the Warrior Cop, Riley Balco. He actually wrote another book talking about
on the record. I recommended that book to you. So
no, that's why I said it. I was like one of your favorite authors too.
I love that guy, dude. Great author. Read that book, everybody.
Hold on. But anyway, so he had a follow-up book, and I forget exactly the name of it. But where he was talking about how a lot of this forensic analysis is actually very flawed, and you know how we often talk about forensic analysis being footprints and fingerprints for convictions. It's actually not as inherently reliable as like a lot of crime shows make you to think. And there's also been a lot of like false arrests based off of a lot of this forensic analysis. It's a really good book. And so that when I saw that footprint, I was like, that's not necessarily like the best piece of evidence that you could bring as well, though, too. Not. Yeah.
No, and it's, you're right. I'm actually gotta get to that book, I guess, because it's true. Because I remember reading that like most like fingerprints, when they do like match, it's always a partial match. It's never. It's usually it's never full, because it's really hard, because we think we fingerprint everything, but they often get smudged and stuff. It's like to get like a really perfect fingerprint, it has to be like fresh, and it has to be like nobody else has had to have touched it. It's like really hard actually to get like anything above like a certain threshold. So they always have. That's why when you see like more accurate, like when you like actually read court records, which I actually have, just out of curiosity, they'll often say like partial matches on like certain confidence thresholds. But yes, I think our media trains us to think that like if there's like blood partial match, like or even a fingerprint match, that they're more like they're probably like guilty. And you're right, false convictions and stuff.
Yeah,
but
I believe the book is called The Cadaver King and the Country Dentist, because they were basically claimed to be experts in something that no one, like this dentist, I believe from like Louisiana, claimed to be an expert in this type of forensic analysis, and no one else could do, only him. And like they tried getting other experts to do it, and he said he had developed this like technique that no one else can do. And what became a problem with this is that a lot of these so-called experts, they were getting paid for convictions. Like they would get money essentially based on the number of, or like whether or not the prosecutors were able to convict a specific person. It was like crazy when he was like going into it. It showed a lot of like the flawed aspects of our criminal justice system. But anyway, we're getting off tangent.
Yeah, let's get back to the movie.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, so that was an interesting. It was a funny scene, and then you just saw like I really like the police officer's reaction. Like, what am I supposed to do with this? Let me do my job. In a way, he shouldn't have been so dismissive. Like he should have just been like, yeah, okay, we'll look into it. But no, he was just like letting it rip a little bit. And so, frustrated, Ruth ends up going back to Tony to enlist his help, and especially once she realizes her laptop was like around the block.
Yeah, that scene was funny. When she was using the tracker.
Yeah.
And she called the police, and they were like, okay. And then she was like, it's right there.
You need a warrant.
You need a warrant. She's like, what
do you mean I need a warrant? It like kind of came up.
Mine, I was dying, dude. That was so funny.
Oh, it was, that was a good scene. And then they go to this house where they think it's the home of the people that stole her laptop, because that's where the tracker said that her laptop is, and it's Tony and Ruth. And they bust in together, and he just beats the heck out of the guy, and then throws goes basically guns blazing, and throws the ninja star into the wall. And they're like freak out, and they're like, "That's my laptop. I need it back." And she's like, "I also need." And then there's an awkward moment. She's like, "I also need the laptop charger as well."
That was funny, dude. I need the laptop charger. I was dying. It was so funny, dude.
It was so stupid, but yeah, that was the moment where he's like trying to pull the ninja star out of the wall. He's like, I can't pull it out that quickly because that's how hard I threw it.
I know.
And, like there were so many like lines that were like so silly at that point. But anyway, so come to realize that those weren't actually the people who stole the laptop. They actually bought it at this weird like flea market. Man. It was like a flea market consortium thrift shop. It was like a weird place. And so they get the address, and they actually go to the place to try to recover the silver.
Her grandmother's silver.
Yeah, it was her grandmother's silver, or was it silverware? I can't remember.
I remember it was like it was an antique because it was in that big box.
Anyway, so they go to this place, and they find they locate the silverware. And what was hilarious is Ruth was actually the one. She's like, all right, we're just going to walk out with it. We're going to steal it. You go ahead first, and then I'll come follow you. Get the car ready. And then you see it, and she takes the silverware. And it's this weird place, right? And I've been to like some thrift shops that are like this before, and they're always like so disorganized. But they're able to find it. And then she recognizes the guy's shoes there, right?
Yeah.
And she sees who was the actual person. And I forgot what it was about the shoes that were so unique that she recognized it has to be him. But
yeah, it was the. I remember the scene very well. It was like because she somehow saw the I think the soul of it. Like, yeah,
there was something super unique that I was like, it has to be him. And then he leaves, and she follows him out with silverware. And then the store owner's like, "Hey, you need to pay for that." And she's like sprinting out, and then eventually outside, the guy who robbed her gets away, and they take off, and she's like, "Dang it!" But then the store owner comes, and they have a confrontation. And at one point, the store owner grabs her hand and just snaps her finger.
Yeah, I know. And then that was a freaky scene because it shows you that it's going to be a lot of random violence.
So random. And then you see Tony come out of nowhere and just knocks the guy out and kills him.
Knocked him out, dude. Yeah, basically. Yeah, he's done, dude. I was just like, damn.
It was so bizarre, this movie.
Yeah. And then again, the car.
Yeah. And then they scramble and get away, and they have the silverware. And I'm trying to remember. I don't know if you remember exactly what. Oh, Tony is the one who ends up having he records the license plate of that car, and from that point they're able to figure out exactly where the van is registered, the exact address, and so they go over to the address and confront. And that was very interesting when they first go over to the house and confront the stay-at-home wife who offers them what was it, tea, coffee, some sort of beverage, but there was so much awkward
because they try to play it off that they're
as they try to impersonate cops.
Yeah, they're the police. That was hilarious, dude. When they clearly don't look like police at all, but
they go there.
But she's such a bimbo that she actually buys it in the beginning.
No, she doesn't. She's like, I'm just so lonely that I know they weren't cops. I just needed somebody to talk to because you just keep me cooped up here.
Oh yeah, that was later. Yeah, that was funny.
But yeah, they have such an odd interaction going on, and they don't know what to make of this stay-at-home lady, and they think that it's really the van belongs to her husband. Yeah, but then she reveals, oh no, that van was that van was a gift to her stepson for what was it, getting his GED or something like that, something very silly, and so they realize, oh, okay, it's not her husband at all, who was the one who was a thief. And it's later revealed, essentially around the same time, that what ends up happening? Oh, that the reason that they're actually stealing all these items and selling them is to try to buy enough money to buy guns so that they could go and rob. What ends up happening? Oh, so that they can go and rob the thief's parents, essentially. Yeah. That's what it is. And so they what ends up happening is they get kicked out of the house, right? Or basically the husband and wife of the house tell them, you guys need to leave. And so they leave, and at that point you see that the people who are in the van, that being the stepson as well as the two convicts that he met in jail, they're like, oh, we need to go follow him, right? And to see what she knows. And at that point, you're led. This is where the thriller aspect goes, because Ruth goes back into her house, and for some reason, I can't remember exactly why Tony ends up going back to his place. But
it's because as they leave,
she stole the bus.
She stored the some people have these bushes. This is for the audience. Some people have bushes that are shaped in animals. I think she ripped one out. Yeah,
she took one,
and you mentioned earlier that Tony is really black and white. So
he sense of morality.
He had a hard time accepting that, and so he went back home and said, "I'm not hanging out with you for now."
Yeah, but then Ruth goes back into her house, and the thief goes in, right, and confronts him why were you there? And she freaks out. And does she? Oh, she kicks him right in her. Does she kick him right in her throat or slices his throat?
I think she hits him in the throat. I think.
Oh yeah, maybe she hits him right.
Yeah, she hits him because you'll describe what ends up killing him, but
yeah, she hits him in the throat, and you hear him, and he just can't breathe, and he's just so shocked that he got hit in the throat that he's just it's almost like she collapsed his lung, is what it sounded like, and he's freaked out, and he runs out. People doing panic and trying to seek help, and you see him run out into the street, and he just gets
fucking killed, dude. Yeah, he gets killed, dude. Yeah, it's just so random, and then it's so bizarre, in your face, boom, and it's damn.
I was not expecting that when it came, and then you have and at that point, then the two accomplices freak out, and she's like, "Oh shoot." He's dead basically, and they're shocked by what happens, and they end up and go kidnap Ruth, and so they take her because their plan has been compromised.
Yeah, for some reason they feel like they need always a third person, so they take her. Yeah.
Yeah, and so they kidnap her, and at that point they go and plan to rob. Uh, they go to the house to initiate the plan, and they basically say, if you don't like go along with us, we're gonna kill you, right? And so then I don't know if you want to take over, but then the insane sequence of bizarre events continues to ensue.
I mean, I don't know how we describe that because yes, they go in there and then they pretty much have it's a whole stick 'em up situation, right? They pretty much have the person who died, I think his name was Chris, ironically,
Uh-huh.
and his dad, and I guess that must have been his stepmom. Apparently, he told the other thieves that there's like money in like the fireplace, right? Some kind
Yeah,
of
it was
when
like savings that.
yeah, when in reality, it's not really like anything. It's just papers, right? So I guess he's wealthy, but it's like probably like bank statements, right? It's not like I guess he described it like, oh, there's like gold
The treasure.
and there's cash and stuff like that when there wasn't. We'll get to that later, but they have a whole stick 'em up style, and I think you're better at like describing scene by scene. But what I will say that I thought was funny
No,
was
you go ahead. There's too much that went on in the scene and too many people to really describe it.
It's just hard. So basically, it's like it's a stick 'em up scene, and they're there because they think there's money in the fireplace.
And there's not, so they realize it's sort of all for naught.
Yeah, and then you know, it's like and it's basically like yeah, so many people die because I believe both the Chris's parents die, and then also the two thieves or the two criminals.
Well, but the way the female criminal dies was just so absurd because she dies off a ricocheted bullet.
Yeah, she dies off a ricochet, but that's why it's like hard. Like all I can say is you just gotta watch that scene because there's a lot that goes on. So I want to say my favorite part of that scene was when Ruth was like, "They dragged me here. I'm not part of this. I'm like innocent. Please, like remember this, you know." And actually, I'm sorry. No, the wife doesn't actually die because she later remembers this. Remember later?
That's right. Yeah.
But so she doesn't die, but her husband dies because that guy was a D-bag. But
he also had initially when he's coming with the stairs, she like shoots off with a shotgun like his hand.
Yeah, his hand blows it off. Yeah, it blows off his hand and like it was nuts. And then and so what ends up, like you said, the thriller aspect is like after this sequence of this bizarre stick 'em up situation.
Tony gets shot and he's
because
dying.
I was gonna say Tony comes in because he cares about Ruth to help her. Doesn't he throw his knife too? Or is throwing his ninja star doesn't do anything.
Yeah, it's a ninja star. Yeah,
it doesn't do anything. And then he gets hit. Yeah, and then he's bleeding out. And so
and the only one who survives is at this point that you know of is Ruth. Tony's dying. He's shot, and then the other dude. I can't remember his name. Was it Marshall?
I forgot. It was basically
I think it was Marshall. He ends up injured, but he ends up chasing them.
I was going to ask, like, because they had a head start. It was because he was injured, right? I remember
he was injured. He got shot.
Yeah, and so they have a head start. So she's dragging Tony out, and they're that was funny too when like she couldn't start the motorboat, so she starts rowing. I was dying, dude. And then he gets the motorboat, and then it just works the first time. I was just like, this is this type of movie, dude. But
and the other thing is that she hid Tony somewhere in the woods, basically to try to hide him, and she was trying to chase the other dude away or lure him away so that he wouldn't find Tony. And then they have they basically go across the lake and they have this showdown right between it where she's like, all right, I'll come down. And the guy's but in reality, she just has like these big rocks because she's trying to lure him up, and he does. And she's able to peg him like on the first hit, and he falls backwards into this little pond. Right. And that's when the water moccasin, which is a very poisonous snake out here on the East Coast, it ends up biting him and killing him.
Yeah.
And then she goes back to Elijah Wood's character, Tony, and you're led to believe that he bled out and died. And then the final scene is her with that, either the friend or the sister with the husband who really doesn't like her
Right.
at a barbecue, and then you see Tony like lived, and it was a very bizarre ending.
Yeah, no, it's because it's the cloud. It makes it seem, and then it's not. But you missed it. Like I said, there's that before we get to that even that part, right? There is this scene where like she is like arrested, and then the wife of the guy that
testifies,
home,
yeah,
and she does the lineup and says that, or she testifies that it was only those two criminals. But also you missed. Remember the random scene where the grandmother shows up randomly in the scene? I forgot why she was there. Oh, you missed it. Yeah, she's randomly spliced in a scene. Oh, you missed it?
I don't remember this.
Oh, I forgot why. It was so random, but like she turns and then it's like the forest and it's like right there, like it's like only like a second. It's a second or two. She's in the scene, yeah. I think it was there to like help her or something. I think she was leading her to like the where the snakes were. I think that was her hint to go that way. But it was like spliced in. I was just like, wait, now that because you forget about the grandmother forever, right? After which the guy dies in the car accident, and we're in this thriller.
Chris,
even I forgot.
Chris, right?
Yeah, Chris. Yeah. Oh, so I thought you said my name, but yeah, the Chris, the character. Yeah. So like, you know how we forget about
Chris, it was Christian.
But I guess they call him Chris in the movie though.
No, Chris is actually the dad.
Okay, so damn it, his names. But anyway, so he dies, right? Christian dies, and then his dad dies. But yes, I'm not saying you should rewatch it, but if you go back to that lake, crossing the lake sequence, you'll see that I must
have just missed that.
The grandmother is spliced in like just a little bit. I was dying, dude. I was just like, so we totally forgot the grandmother, and of course she's like there magically because she's supposed to be part of the story, I guess. But yeah, you cover pretty much like the last run sequence of like the.
But I guess what we also missed. Which we didn't talk about, was there was another scene with a cop, and that was after. Oh, they got the license plate. Do you remember before they actually go to the house, and they got the license plate of the van, and so they go to the cops, and he's like, why do you keep doing this? And then like it's revealed that like she's like, you're gonna get yourself killed, and she's like, no, I'm not. Blah blah. I know what I'm doing. Really? She's like, how did that?
Oh yeah,
what happened to your finger?
Have it to your hand.
your finger. And then she's like, when she gets quiet.
No, but doesn't she say some excuse like I hit it against the door or something? Yeah. Like, I slammed against the door. And he's like, that was a bad slam then, because it totally broke.
Yeah, and then he goes off for a little bit, and then it's revealed he's like, I haven't been like doing my job seriously. He's like, because I've been like divorced. There's like other issues besides you, and he goes off on this huge tirade. It's like, what is going on here?
It was so funny,
just so ridiculous and over the top. And and then you see like all of the police office. They're just looking over because they're like, oh, some scenes like happening, as like nosy coworkers often do.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that is true. But
that's why I kind of like that scene. I was like, that's kind of relatable.
I was like, there's a lot of scenes in this movie that are relatable. Obviously, the really over the top scenes aren't, but there's like subtle scenes where you're like, they're taking some social commentary. It was good.
Yeah, I thought the snake scene was a little like ridiculous.
I mean, even the spliced in grandmother was just like, okay, now what is this movie? Now it's like you said, a comedy, thriller, supernatural. Like, what's next? Like,
this film was all over the place. I will say.
Yeah, and I think that's it's a strength, but also could be its weakness because I felt sometimes like I think I've been consistent with movies we've covered.
That's what you kind of said about when we reviewed Cooley High, was that you're like it was kind of all over the place.
Yeah,
with its emotion.
Yeah, and I will say that I would still say I preferred even Cooley High to this one. So
it goes to show it's kind of a preview. It sounds like for your ratings.
Yeah, like it's tough because like I think I would have given them similar scores, but I think I like Cooley High a little bit more. So we'll see when we get to the ratings. Yeah. But yeah, Cooley High had a similar thing. I think Sunshine too. Like it was not a good movie. Like I didn't like it that much, but that last sequence, I was like, what's this now? Like we went from sci-fi, big picture humanity to now we're a thriller. Like, but I think to give this movie some points, I think that's what it was going for, this sporadic thing. I think we'll touch upon it when we talk about final thoughts, but I think sometimes you can be too sporadic. And I didn't mind the grandmother scene. I didn't even mind some of the like those random like the car crash and the breaking the finger. It's more like other than Tony, I didn't feel like there was The other characters they were just
They're
characters.
kind of forgettable.
Yeah,
I would say Christian was pretty good because he was just kind of the weird.
he was the villain, right? Yeah.
Yeah. He
Oh,
was,
we didn't even talk about the party scene he went to. Remember that he was just randomly
oh
in the party.
yeah,
That was
yeah,
so freaky, dude. And and she was like, he was trying to steal something, right? And she was
yeah.
like, the hostess was like, "Who are you?" Like, "Oh, I'm friends with whatever." And then like outside, he just like kills that dude, right?
Well, and then he's trying to make the escape to the front door, and then someone recognizes him, like the party host, and so he goes out the back, and he's like, "Hey, who are you? Who do you know this? Stay right there. I'm gonna call the cops." And he's like, "Oh shoot, look at that!" And he just beats the dude to death.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was a freaky scene.
yeah. It's a good scene, but it was like freaky, you know. But I think I use that scene as an example because there's like good scenes, but because they don't really truly tie together. It's like you almost remember parts of these movies like as a jigsaw puzzle. So
Yeah, no, I agree with that. But yeah, I mean, I think we covered most of it as well as some of the aspects we liked and didn't like. Do you want to get into final thoughts?
yeah, I can get into and then ratings, sir. I can get to my final thoughts.
Go ahead.
I think I touched upon it a little bit already. That I felt like the film was like a jigsaw puzzle, where like I enjoy when all the pieces were together, but like kind of like how you meant, like we've been, I think clearly obvious, even unintentionally, that we remember certain scenes like in certain ways and out of sequence. This movie is not really like all the scenes don't really tie together. It's a very enjoyable movie because of its sporadic nature, but that also means that like if you were to binge this, you'll get less and less of a payoff. Because the payoff is like being a first time viewer. I think you get the ultimate payoff that way. If I were to rewatch it this week, I'd be like, I already know what happens. And,
yeah,
you know,
it's not a very rewatchable film to me.
Outside of Tony's character, like you said, a lot of the characters are kind of forgettable. Ruth is probably like the only
She's
one I can
kind
think
of forgettable a little bit. I would say Christian was only the one that had a stronger performance to me. Who was the main villain?
I would say I reverse it. I liked Ruth more than Christian, but I thought he was kind of like the typical, you know.
Well, he was sort of awkward. I don't know. There was something about him that I did like.
And I guess the cop was a good character though. I did like him. So there's like.
But he was so minor though.
Yeah, he was a minor character, but at least to his credit, he did a great job. And yeah, like it's the story. I guess the story flowed because of like they had like basically I wonder if like they already had the structure of the film and they just filled in the gaps with the scenes they thought would be like funny, shocking, because even the premise, right, her getting stuff stolen, that was kind of like the catalyst for her to have a movement, have action,
yeah,
and then and lead all the way to the resolution, right? Even the romance between Tony and Ruth, I will argue that it felt a bit.
Was there any romance?
They were trying to like hint at it, but I didn't know what they were trying to go for, like a commentary on this.
There was no real romance.
But you understand what I'm saying, right? Like it was like it felt kind of off. I don't know if they were going for that awkwardness or not, but
I think it was the whole movie was just meant to be awkward. So that's probably what they were going for. But I don't think they were trying to hit on anything more than that.
Yeah. So I guess I'll let you do your final thoughts, then we can do our scores. But
yeah, so it was an interesting movie. It was definitely unique compared to other films we've done. It was in a realm of black comedy. I would agree with that, although not, I would say, as well executed as a movie like Trainspotting. I thought that was a very well done black comedy when we reviewed that because there was a lot of depth and I would say deeper social commentary in that film than in this one. You know, this one was just trying to give you sort of a shock factor at times, as well as like really make you uncomfortable with some of the awkward moments, yet still try to make you laugh. And so there were some very good moments to the film, but as a whole, it was too choppy for me personally, and that was one of my big negatives for the film. That and the only really strong performance for that was Tony's, to me.
I agree.
Which I thought that Christian was like second in terms of, and then Ruth probably behind that. But nothing really stood out aside from Tony, in my personal opinion. So I'll go ahead and give just my rating, and then you can go ahead with yours. I give this movie a 6.5. Whereas it had some very unique moments, some very good moments. As a whole, I didn't feel like it was really tied together. It was too sporadic for me as a viewer.
Yeah, I already shared my final thoughts. So I'm coming in on a 6 out of 10. Not like a movie that I did enjoy watching, but not a movie that I look back and go, that's cinema. I know a lot of people would disagree because I remember reading some Reddit threads that like they really loved
Some
the movie.
people, I'm sure, I could see why some people loved it. It just wasn't my personal cup of tea.
I think in this era of regurgitated content, a movie like this sticks out, and so the novelty is really appreciated. So I gave the movie points for that. But we've discussed some really heavy hitters in this pod so far, and yeah, I mean you can't even put it in the same ballpark. Let's be honest. So
there's no Burning, dude.
Yeah,
or Sound of Metal. No, it's nowhere near on that level.
So it's like enjoyable, but it has its place. And and I like me, like I feel like people give these scores way too nilly-nilly, and people are like, oh, it's 9 out of 10, 10. It's so novel. I'm like, okay, let's pump the brakes a little bit. So yeah, I'm in a 6. We're in the same like region. I considered 5.5, but
I considered 6 to be honest, but I was a little. Based on, I guess, the uniqueness, that's what bumped it up a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I gave it a 0.5 point because of the novelty. I think there's not a lot of films that are made this way.
No, I can't think of another one.
And I do respect. I tip my hat for that. So
yeah. Well, cool. That concludes this week's episode. If you liked our commentary on the film, please like and subscribe to our channel, and stay tuned for next week's episode. Until then, we'll see you.